next interview is on Watchmen.
Yeah.
This was on the E-list and has had correspondence and interactions with you for years. And another fellow, I don't remember his name, but he really rackets down the interview. This is probably the least of all the interviews up to this point.
Yeah.
The debate is silly and on a silly topic, and you raise one point of the ending Watchmen. I have not read Watchmen, so I cannot refer to that, but I have seen the abominable film, and the ending to it is one of those endings that you just think, what the fuck, and what relevance does this have to anything? It's such a out of nowhere terrible ending that it completely, even if it was a sterling film before that, it would still racket it down to mediocrity. Yet this idiot goes on to defend it, and even Jason Sanford, I think, is making too many pluses for it when it is indisputably a terrible, horrid ending, one of the worst endings I've seen in any medium. And one of the silliest moments is when you're speaking of Citizen Kane, and that Jason Sanford goes on to say that, well, since Citizen Kane didn't really live up to the premise of the greatest film of all time, he doesn't really understand that. So even though he was part of the UPG, I see a completely different perspective from him. He's far more subjectivist than objectivist.
Well, I know Jessica has often gotten frustrated when in arguments about art. Jason is someone who has been trying to get in academia, and then he gave up writing fiction, what do you call literary fiction, and to do sci-fi. He's much better in the interview I do standalone with him, and the interview I do with the comic book guy 20-some interviews later is much better than this one.
Yes, definitely.
But it was a topic that had come to me, and I was like, okay, let me ask about this, and there's really not much more to say about it, I don't think.
Yeah, but I think Jason by himself would have actually been better than the other fellow in there, because he doesn't really add much, and his defenses are so weak and mannered and artificial that it can do nothing but do a disservice to the interview.
And it's one of the things that the guy who's arguing it comes across as juvenile, and not that he's nasty or anything, but he comes across as he's just not as deep. But it's one of those things I can't really know until I get someone. Some people can sometimes say outrageous things in print, and they turn out to be a good interview because they're loquacious. There are some interviews I did later on, like the guy with Oswald Spengler. He seems a bit like, in the emails that I had with him, he seemed like a bit wacky, but he gave a magnificent interview. So you never know.